Onegaishimasu. Welcome back to the Goju Karate Center. Yep, a different profile, a different picture today. Today we are going to be working on the grappling component that we teach to our little tiny tots in our dojo. And this has been called Chinese wrestling since I was a child. I remember training with Sensei Chinen and Sensei Morio Higawana and with my senseis Paul Andre and Aubrey Peterson. And we did lots of Chinese wrestling because we needed to be a little bit stronger and a little bit more comfortable on the ground. As a disclaimer, I am by no means an expert in grappling. And if you want to get like seriously hardcore, intense, great understanding of grappling, go and look at the guys doing grappling professionally, wrestling professionally, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu professionally. Go speak to those guys. Go watch their channels. They are going to be far more competent at what this content is really about, or what this subject is really about. So for us, we are doing this at a very, very basic level. And all we are going to be doing is running through some of the ideas that we apply when we start teaching the Chinese wrestling or grappling that takes place in our dojo. It is part of what we expect our students to do for gradings as they go through their ranks. And very importantly, it is done in conjunction with sparring. So they'll do groundwork as one type of sparring or one type of partner interaction. They will do slow, continuous fighting with anything goes. Randori as another component. And then there might be a little bit more of, especially at a higher belt, a little bit more of a free format, semi to kind of, let's call it half contact dojo kumite, where, again, virtually anything goes and you have to be able to escalate it. And you may have a limited amount of equipment. You might have gloves and shin guards on, a gum shield and a groin cup. Ultimately, we're looking at the partner interaction, the combative interaction with your partner. Hi, Brian, let's go. So, as always, we start with respect. Hi, onegaishimasu. Okay, so our first principles of Chinese wrestling, we're grabbing onto the gi and we're trying to stay on our knees. There's no punching, no elbowing, no headbutting, no biting, no tickling even. The idea is just to try and to start with getting our partner onto the ground. So you'd both probably take a knee stance. You're not allowed to go onto your feet, so you're not allowed to do this effectively. You've got to try to stay on your knees, and the most primitive form is just basically wrestling. And let's go, Brian, you can wrestle a little bit. And you're going to be working. And our first goal that we're going to do is we're going to be trying to get our partner onto their back and going onto their chest. All right, so Brian, let's move back into the center of the shot here. So what we often expect our students to do is to put their chest to chest. We do not want a high buttocks. We want them to drop their hips, and we really want them to get their arms in. At this point, there's a little bit of control of maybe one arm, and they're going to drop a leg and try and get a big triangle. So we're going to teach the kids, and we ask them to try and pancake their partner. Okay, so they're going to lay on their partner's chest and try and pancake them, and then hold them there. And so we'll have pancake, and after that we will start trying to get them to transition. So the first game they're going to play, once I've pancaked you and I've counted to 3, then I'm going to try and get onto the top of you and count to another 3, and then I'm going to try swivel to the other side. Yep, and again, count to 3. Hey, Brian, let's go. Up we get. So game 1, because these are essentially games for our children. Game 1 is the pancake game, and then the movement from one side to the other side. So pancake onto the center of the body, and then pancake on the other side. Or I think you might call it side control, center, mount, side control. and trying to effectively teach this transition through this arc, which is very, very important. So we teach this as a game to the kids, especially as they're learning, as they're maybe absolute beginner white belts, and they've got to work on getting out. Obviously, the game for the other person is to get rid of you. So their goal is to try and buck and try and push you off. And essentially, we're starting to teach kids how to basically bridge and to pelvic thrust. So if I go into takedown and I'm on this, Brian is going to try and get out. So he's going to start lifting his legs. He's going to start reaching and trying to force me off so that he can go. He's going to ultimately, he's going to figure out, or he's going to start being told, if he breaches with one leg up and one leg down and then adds a roll component, it's going to be better. So Brian, if you go that way and you bridge and roll, he can start trying to scoot out by pushing his bum out, and he's going to change the dynamic of our little wrestling match. We're trying to build the idea of how to get wrestling in little small increments that allow kids to play. Obviously, the moment there's wrestling and they're holding on to each other, it's essentially full contact, especially when the kids are more or less the same size, the same weight, and they're holding and fighting against each other. It develops huge amounts of strength within their little bodies, because if it's done on a regular basis, the kids actually grow stronger. They grow physically tougher. They become more accustomed to being on their hands and knees and fighting and rolling with their opponents. So they get this added benefit of all the extra strength training, the physicality. And for a lot of kids with sensory issues where physicality is an important thing that they've got to learn to understand, it's a great means to an end for them to understand what they are actually doing to one another without running through the dojo's plaster box and the first aid kit, because you're plugging up kids' noses because they've all got a blood nose because somebody bopped them in the nose continuously. So it's a great means to teach kids about physicality without them actually hitting, kicking, striking one another. So game one, pancake game. Counter to that is to try and shift and to get out. And it is quite common in our dojo to see a big kid with a little kid rolling with them, and they get them into basically the pancake, and then the big kid going, come on, get out, get out, get out, move your bum, wriggle, push, use your elbows, push, get out. And this helps dojo esprit de corps, and it builds the camaraderie within the dojo. So there are a couple of reasons we do this, and these reasons have been perpetuated now for, well, like I said, I was a kid and we did these games. We didn't have names for it since they just used to tell us to wrestle. I hated wrestling. I was a small, skinny kid with very little power, so it wasn't my favorite thing. I preferred to do kumite. However, in later life, I've realized how important it is, and it also brings so much joy. Kids are just generally smiling when they do a little bit of wrestling and rolling. They are happy because they get that freedom. In another video, I mentioned that my dojo is usually chaotic and the kids are all working. We might put out 4 or 5 cones and let the kids play in a small area. So that was game number 1. Game number 2, or drill number 2, we call the koala bear. All right? And it's a little bit of a sacrifice. And it's the first time we start teaching kids how to give up position to get to a stronger point, especially when they're outpowered. So, hey, Brian, let's go. Shimas. And so we're here. Brian is going to do the koala bear, and I'm going to kind of talk as we're going through it. So I'm the aggressor. I'm pushing. I'm much stronger. I'm driving him back. He rolls back. Let's just come back into shot a bit, Brian. He rolls back, and as he goes back, he flips both of his feet around my torso, and he hooks his feet in. I've just pushed him over. So my energy, as he goes, does this, and that brings in the second part of the koala bear, which is those arms. And for the sake of the mic, we're going to imagine he's going to pull me down and pull me against his body. So pull down, pull yourself up, Brian, and he looks like a koala bear. And in this position, he's going to hold and try and wear me down. Okay, relax for a sec, Brian. So you can stay like that, it's fine. In this position, where he is crushing and pulling me down and I'm trying to fight against him, what he's effectively doing is he's trying to conserve his energy so that he doesn't waste too much energy, but he is now starting to make my life very, very difficult because I start running out of breath. Some dirty tricks that a lot of the students have figured out is to grab the gi jacket, especially when it's a little bit loose, and to try and pull it over their partner's head. So you'll often get them pulling the gi over their partner's head. And you have the gi kind of straining on your neck. You've got them pulling down, and that's it. Now, so that would be his job. My job, when I get into this position, what we start to teach the kids, he's pulling down, go. My job is to get hands in and to break free. Now, let's go with the other hand. So he's pull down, Brian, pull. My job is to try and do that. So that's the first thing. The next thing is he starts to wisen up. So instead of going straight over, he goes around and under my arm, and he starts to get here. So now it's a little bit harder. He's going to now start pull down and crush Brian. He's going to start doing this to me, and now it's a little bit harder. However, I don't need to be focused on his arm at this point. Go, Brian, pull. So we're going to start teaching the kids that they need to get their arms in, and basically they're starting to learn how to pommel. So he's here, and we pommel, and the moment we can sit up, we now start attacking the legs. So we'll have kids going into this, and I'm going to use the other side, so I'm going to push his leg down, and they're going to move out of that position, and they go back to pancake. So it's a combination of us, hey, thanks Brian, arigato. It's a combination of us trying to get them to pull down and push down and create pancake, and then go through those stages of side control, center control, side control, and that's cool. That gives you like psychologically a win. And then the other person, I hold you down, I'm pulling you in, I'm starting to crush you, I'm starting to weigh you down, and you've got to break free. And you've got to move around me and get to side control and push. One of the things that we discourage a lot, because it doesn't make any sense, and it's very common, is that a lot of little children, when they're under duress in these situations, will roll onto their stomachs. We don't like this because the common sense that has prevailed upon the martial arts world of late is that the moment you give up your back, you effectively give up your neck, and your partner is ultimately going to put you into some kind of chokehold from behind. So, Brian, please come. Shimasu. So, should I effectively get Brian into this position, and Brian now rolls onto his stomach because he thinks this is going to be the best place to be. If he's going to try and I'm trying to hold him down, he's going to try and push up, okay, to try and get free. This is a very, very dangerous place to be. Okay, so let's go back down there. The moment he goes here, we can just change angle. Brian, please lie this way. The moment he's here, what we're now starting to show the children, I'm just lifting up so the mic is out the way, is that the moment you get here, this is happening. At this point, when we start teaching this choke, or showing them this choke, we're also starting to teach tapping. So we start saying, right, if I choke you and it's uncomfortable, you tap the floor. When there are 40 of you in the dojo and everybody's tapping the floor, then it is better for you to reach up and to tap me. So I know that I have started to put you in a place where you're no longer comfortable. Hey, thanks, Brian. So, as a short introduction into Chinese wrestling or grappling for tiny tots within the dojo, within the environment, things to consider: surface. We're fortunate we have a 25 mil or 1 inch matted area that we train on for approximately 6 months of the year, and then the rest of the year, the other 6 months, we generally train on the wooden floor that's underneath. And that's important because it helps with the knees, the elbows, and the heads when they get tossed around. Secondly, we are going to be teaching tapping out when necessary. We're going to start teaching to be physical, but in a controlled way, without any swinging, hooking, punching, or striking. And so that children actually get that physicality in. A lot of children are relatively sedentary. They're sitting on the couch, they're watching TV, they're not out and about playing, and there's very little rough and tumble. As a school teacher, I remember one of the great things that was put into place that was heart-sore for me to see was the fact that the good old-fashioned climbing tree on the school playground suddenly became, you will not climb the tree. And the argument we leveled against the school management was that children need to be able to climb trees. They need to be able to climb on jungle gyms and things like that. And if they don't have that opportunity, they're not going to develop some of the motor skills that you need as an adult. And the school was like, we're sorry, we've had 2 children fall and 2 children break arms, and so we're not going to teach kids how to, or let kids climb trees because it's now a dangerous pursuit because somebody got hurt. I think the negative of that is that children ultimately become more and more sedentary. Things that would have been fun and games within their peer group and social learning sometimes don't happen. So our school eventually realized there was something amiss, and they built an adventure playground, but it became exclusively for the use of very little children because bigger children on the adventure playground was a little bit like crazy, a little bit wild. I think groundwork and rolling and wrestling is a fundamental part of the development of martial skills, and I think it's very important for young children to learn this from the get-go. The moment they can get into a dojo, and if there is the availability of this, then it's fantastic. They're going to learn something, they're going to grow stronger, and they're going to improve. I know that some schools do not teach anything like this on the ground. They stick maybe to their 3K system. There's Kion, Kata, and Kumite. And should you want to learn something like this, you need to go to the judo dojo or the jiu-jitsu dojo or down to the wrestling club, and you've got to practice that as a separate martial art. I'm just putting it out there. This is what we do with our little kids. I hope you enjoyed it. It is a short introduction into Chinese wrestling or our dojo's grappling system that we kind of teach. We are by no means experts at grappling. We have a very, very, very simplistic grappling system that just helps us to develop a little bit of confidence on the ground and a lot of just strength and conditioning and comfort being on the ground, being a little bit more accustomed to being on your hands, knees, and rolling in the dirt per se. Thank you for joining us at the Goju Karate Center. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Have a fantastic one. Arigato gozaimasu. Sayonara.